The divine message of the August eclipse. On August 21, 2017, a total solar eclipse will cross the entire contiguous United States, beginning in Oregon and ending in South Carolina. Incredibly, the eclipse will actually begin as soon as the sun rises on the west coast. The sun appears to rise in the east and set in the west, but eclipses travel in the opposite direction. See here. In other words, people will witness a black sun rising over the United States. It has also been noted that another total solar eclipse will cross the United States at an opposite angle 7 years later in 2024. The amount of prophetic meaning behind these eclipses is simply overwhelming, and I dare not attempt to interpret it all. I'll simply share with you a few of the discoveries I and others have made, and you can interpret it for yourself. 1. The August eclipse occurs exactly 33 days before the Revelation 12 sign, beginning in the 33rd state, Oregon, and ending in South Carolina at the 33rd parallel. I've personally verified each of these details. See here, and here. Can you really chalk up the significance of this to pure coincidence or confirmation bias? It's been noted that an eclipse like this hasn't happened in 99 years. 2. The eclipse is also exactly 40 days from Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. 40 inches represents a period of testing in the Bible, as can be seen in the 40 years the Israelites wandered in the wilderness and the 40 days Jesus was tested in the wilderness. This 40-day period leading up to Yom Kippur is more than random. In fact, this period of time beginning on August 21st is called the season of Teshuvah, which in the Jewish faith is a time to get right with God before judgment falls on the Day of Atonement. In other words, repent before time is up. 3. While eclipses are not that uncommon, total solar eclipses only occur about every year and a half and often occur over the ocean rather than land. Don't let anyone fool you into thinking this eclipse is nothing out of the ordinary. Day will be turned to night all across the middle United States. It's been 99 years since a total solar eclipse crossed the entire United States, and having another total solar eclipse cross the entire United States again, forming an X just a few years later, is perhaps unprecedented. 4. It's been noted that the United States is the wealthiest, most powerful, and most influential Gentile nation. It is also the world's ethnic melting pot and hosts a proto-world government in the form of the United Nations. Lunar eclipses, blood moons, are omens for Israel, whereas solar eclipses are omens for the Gentiles. The 7-year tribulation is also known as the Day of the Lord, when God enters into judgment with the Gentile nations. The fact that two total solar eclipses, spaced 7 years apart, cross the entirety of the contiguous United States and form an X over the chief Gentile nation on earth should give you pause. 5. The tribulation, also called Daniel's 70th week, or the time of Jacob's trouble, is understood to be a worldwide version of the Exodus from Egypt. The plagues and Exodus were a sort of microcosm of the future day of the Lord. The ruthless Pharaoh was a type of the Antichrist, the plagues were a type of the coming worldwide trumpet and vile judgments, the Exodus was a type of both the rapture and the future Israelite remnant that will escape into the wilderness, and so forth. Even some of the minute details were types and shadows. Moses was a type of the future male child, Christ and the church, that was and will be delivered from harm's way. He escaped the tribulation that his people endured when he was placed in a basket and ended up as a prince in palaces of splendor. Yet his people continued to endure tribulation and suffering until he later returned to deliver them from Egypt. Even some of the specific plagues in Egypt will be replicated on a worldwide scale during the tribulation. As a matter of fact, there is a direct parallel in the book of Revelation to 7 of the 10 plagues in Egypt. See here. You could say the tribulation is almost a do-over of the Exodus, because the Israelites were not faithful to the end in the first instance, but at the end of the tribulation will be faithful, saved, and delivered. With this in mind, consider that the X that will be formed over the United States rests right over a region in southern Illinois called Little Egypt. Even more, the exact point where the two paths crosses in the town of Makanda, which used to be called the Star of Egypt. 6. The eclipse occurs in conjunction with Regulus, the king star. Regulus is the brightest star in the constellation Leo, and Leo is one of the two constellations involved in the Revelation 12 sign. The fact that this eclipse occurs in Leo, which will be part of the great sign the month after, is astonishing. It's like God's trying to fix our attention on the king and on the following month's great sign. Also, a reader noticed that the eclipse crosses exactly 12 states, and I verified the count to make sure. An eclipse across 12 states just 1 month before the Revelation 12 sign that features a woman with a crown of 12 stars. 7. The first major city that will witness the eclipse is Oregon's state capital, Salem. Salem is of course the shortened version of Jerusalem, which is the most prophetically significant city in the entire Bible. Jerusalem was originally called Salem in the days of Melchizedek, Genesis 14:18, who was a foreshadowing of Christ, or possibly even a Christophany. If that isn't interesting enough, the closest road to the exact point where the two eclipses cross is Salem Road in Makanda, Illinois.